very, very interested in what Kwame Pianim said. He said, look, this IMF business, it just makes us a recolonized nation. Because the conditionalities that we will have to abide by is pretty much other people telling us what to do with our sovereignty, which we seem to have a very big problem with. Look at how we are responding to this whole LGBTQ thing, that we are a sovereign nation, we are
yeah,
but we are willing to do anything for money.
Yeah.
So so he says that actually we should forget about it and just get what's it called, some kind of debt restructure and pay our bills. Debt forgiveness is not the way forward.
I solely agree with him on that, because if you've been able to mismanage your economy, there is a need for you to face the consequence, and by so doing you would have to settle your debt. It makes you responsible, so that next time you wouldn't mismanage again. But it saddens my heart that over how many times now we've gone to the IMF 16 times and we've still not been able to learn our lessons.
Can we afford the consequences?
That's the big question, Kojo.
Anyway, today that's what we're focusing on. We're going to learn a lot about these actual conditionalities, the things that a nation is made to do in exchange for these debt forgiveness programs that we are scrambling for. And then we'll see whether it's better to restructure our debt, and whether we even have an option at this point. We are waiting for the board to make a decision. Can we really go up to them and say, hey Charlie, our sovereignty just kicked in, so you keep your bailout, we will face the music. We'll see how it goes. Today we're talking about that and more, but not before we show our usual gratitude to our dearest friends. First of all, for the 6 a.m. news, we're thankful to Total Energies. Total, we go the extra mile for you, as well as Absa Bank Ghana Limited, helping you find a way to get things done, and Millennium Insurance, your trustworthy partner. For the Joy Business Report, our thanks are going directly to Glyco Life Travel Insurance. Glyco, we cushion you for life.
Hello, pleasant morning, everyone. Warm welcome to the Joy Business Report. Coming up in this edition, Ghana set to finalize negotiations for an IMF program approval this month as annual IMF World Bank Spring Meetings opens in Washington, D.C. today. Meanwhile, Bank of Ghana justifies again its financing of the budget post-COVID-19, saying failure to do so will have spelled doom for the economy. Also in this bulletin, Ghana ranked first in sub-Saharan Africa with largest electricity access rate of about 81%. We'll hear from a World Bank report. These and many more shortly. Grateful you could join me. I am Pius, Kojo, Backah. To our very first story. Government is expected to finalize negotiations with all its interested parties in its International Monetary Fund support program in the coming weeks. This should help Ghana secure an IMF board approval not later than May this year. My colleague George Yafe has more from Washington, D.C., where the annual IMF World Bank Spring Meetings formally opens today.
We understand that the majority of these negotiations with the interested parties, like the Paris Club, Ghana's bilateral partners, and the group of 20 developed economies, will be closed in the next few days. This should pave the way for Ghana to then formally submit its economic program and letter of intent signed by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, to the African Department of the IMF, with the necessary scrutiny, as well as other departments like legal at the IMF. This will now pave the way for Ghana to request for an executive board meeting to consider its program request. Sources say Ghana is likely to get a slot at the end of this month, or possibly the middle of May this year, for the IMF board to consider its request and possible approval.
George Yafe reporting from Washington, D.C., USA. Meanwhile, UK-based Financial Times is reporting that Ghana's bilateral partners are expected to announce their commitment to participate in the country's debt restructuring program. Now, it claims Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta said those bilateral creditors would consent to enough debt relief to enable the country to tap an IMF loan package agreed last year. Now, the Bank of Ghana has justified again its financing of the budget post-COVID-19, saying failure to do so will have spelled doom for the economy. Now, between 2015 and 2020, before COVID-19 struck, the central bank had a policy of zero financing of the budget. However, that changed right after COVID-19 when government was struggling to raise revenue. Now, speaking at the University of Ghana 75th Anniversary Public Lecture on Ghana's Economic, the Need for Paradigm Shift, Director of Research at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Philip Abredu-Otu, said the Bank of Ghana had no choice but save the economy from collapse.
From the central bank's point of view, we realized we needed an economy to protect. So there were choices that had to be made. Should we allow the economy to collapse, or we should stick strictly to issues of fiscal dominance, and then who picks up the pieces after the economy has collapsed? But that financing that we did in 2022 went mainly to deal with investors, domestic investors whose bonds had matured, and government needed to pay these bonds, and for which government had no resources. We had to step in as the lender of last resort and allow the domestic investors to get their returns. All the amount, 100% of that amount, was due to domestic bonds that had matured, for which we had to step in to save these domestic investors. And that is where the fiscal dominance issue came in. So yes, it came in, but we did that to save domestic investors.
Thoughts of Director of Research at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Philip Abredu-Otu there. Now, Ghana is ranked first in sub-Saharan Africa with the largest electricity access rate. That's according to the World Bank's April 2023 Africa Pulse report. The nation recorded about 81% access to electricity rate in 2021. There is more in this report.
Ghana beats African powerhouses such as South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria. In 2015, the country's access to electricity in Africa stood at about 75%. That still placed it number one on the continent. So between 2015 and 2021, the country added a little over 5% power to the electricity access rate. The World Bank's African Pulse report pointed out that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a sharp adverse effect on access to electricity, adding the pandemic eroded gains made in the preceding 5 years. In several countries, it said the number of people without access to electricity grew rapidly between 2020 and 2021, despite progress made prior to the pandemic. However, in Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, Senegal, and Cote d'Ivoire, the numbers were stable or reduced. Meanwhile, Cote d'Ivoire and Kenya were ranked second and third respectively in sub-Saharan Africa with the biggest electricity access rate.
A Business Desk report there. Now, traders and some business associations have expressed disappointment in the decision by Parliament to pass the 3 revenue measures despite petitions to members of the legislature not to pass the bills. According to them, the revenue measures, even though has been justified by government as required for securing an IMF deal, is inimical to businesses. Now, speaking to Joy Business, the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, said the current rate of inflation and interest rates do not call for additional taxes.
We're surprised. That's why we show our disapproval to Parliament for passing this law, because this is a law or bill that was coming that all trade associations, trade organizations have come and protested that if you do this, we are already overburdened. The taxes that have been increased since 2021, the COVID pandemic, the effects on businesses were more than anything else. And that's even with the COVID pandemic, we were made to pay a tax on the COVID itself. What is more nuisance than this? There's no precedent anywhere in the world that businesses were made to pay.
Dr. Joseph Obeng is the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, speaking to Joy Business there. Now, today on Investor Eye, we tell you what to do when suspicious investment links are sent to you. Joseph Kokwe is the lead in charge of cybersecurity at E-Crime Bureau and provides some advice for us. Take a listen.
Anything, okay, whether it is email, whether it's a phone call, that seems to urge a user to take an action, right, should be deemed suspicious until proven correct. So if you are telling me by mail that click this link, okay, or reset your account by clicking this link, which is what, an action. So anything communicating to a user to take an action is suspicious until proven innocent. So if you call me and you're telling me that, I have resent you a link, can you kindly click it? As far as you are telling me to take an action, that is suspicious, and I need to verify who you are. And that's where the basic questions come in. So now you have to be CID. So you have to ask, who is this? Where are you calling from? Why do I have to click this link? Anything that can buy you time to think. Okay, so you buy yourself time with questions. Okay, where did you say you are calling from? Ask for identification if you have to. You said you work with this organization. Okay, sure. Where are they located? Tells that if someone is impersonating or is a scammer, they haven't researched well enough, so they will find that their answers are not matching up.
Joseph Kokwe is the lead in charge of cybersecurity at E-Crime Bureau. And just so you know, Investor Eye comes your way every Tuesday and Thursday in the morning on the Joy Business Report. Now, the Ghana Stock Exchange may experience a mixed performance this week. Let's now take a listen to Grace Moneyang of Data Bank Research with a preview of trading on the stock market.
At the close of trading session last week, the stock market recorded 4 price movers of 2 gainers and 2 laggards. Benso Oil Palm Plantation led the week's gainers by 1 cedi 16 pesos to close at 12 cedis 83 pesos. MTN Ghana went up by 1 peso to close at 1 cedi 26 pesos. On the flip side, Farm Milk lost 23 pesos to 1 cedi 6 pesos, while New Gold closed at a 9 cedi 73 pesos lower to 219 cedis 27 pesos. The price gains drove the market indices higher, with the Data Bank Stock Index advancing by 0.36% weekly to a year-to-date gain of 2.14%. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index also increased by 0.48% weekly to a year-to-date gain of 12.87%. Maintaining our forecast, we expect Gold Ghana to make gains this week, while SIC Insurance declined based on market outstanding bids and offers. For Joy Business Report, Grace Monanyun of Data Bank Research.
Away from the stock market, let's dash to the currency market quickly. And the cedi began this week going for 10 cedis 90 pesos to the dollar on the forex or retail market. It is selling at 13 cedis 90 pesos to the pound. It is, however, trading at 11 cedis 90 pesos to the euro. And quickly as well to the commodities, and crude oil opened trading at $84 a barrel this morning. Gold went up by more than $8 and is now selling at $2,000 an ounce. Cocoa, however, is trading at $2,861 a ton after losing $9 from yesterday's trading. And that does it for the Joy Business Report. Back to you, Kojo Yanksen.
Back to me.